Alright guys, today we're talking Clan Boss. I have somewhat of an unusual build in the sense, right? It is down the lines of Unkillable, but we're also combining another tactic here to take the stun, which is Ally Protect. You'll also notice that on this specific run, we don't have a dedicated Poisoner, and it can still work to get a comfortable 2-key Ultra Nightmare. And in fact, the roster I'm going to present to you guys can do all the affinities, 2-key Ultra Nightmare, and 1-key Nightmare, which I think is pretty fantastic. So we're going to dive into this account, we're going to look at all those champions, and so hopefully you guys have a new working model. All that being said, let's jump right into today's video. Let me first start by giving a huge shout out to this player, which is a Gugu Style Pandemic. Now, this player is in fact a lady, and she went above and beyond to give me all the information, or to give us all the information we need to replicate this. So I have a breakdown here, which I'm going to briefly cover, right? But you guys can always pause this if you want to read. And it explains sort of what you have to do on certain affinities and what it basically is, right? So this is sort of like an Unkillable team, which uses kind of the same setup as Crusher and Roschard the Tower. All right, we have that on the Deadwood Jedi website if you guys want to go check that out. But what we're in fact doing here is that we're dropping the other Unkillable or the Warcaster, basically, or block damage, I forget which one that is, to protect our stun champion. Instead, what we're doing here is that we are using Rearguard Sergeant to place an ally protect so that our stun target will be able to survive until the 50th turn anyway, right? So you can still drop lifesteal because of this, which is kind of huge in a sense, but kind of the same thing applies here. You do not want to use champs with turn meter boost. You do not want to use champs to place increased speed buffs. Be careful of the Masteries you use for the speed tuning as well. If you do use Lore of Steel, make sure you account for that when you're going to calculate. She also says the stun target and the Rearguard Sergeant should have a minimum of 3,500 defense. Everyone else can be built for Unkillable. All right, I'm also not sure if, let's say, Unkillable versus block damage would change the stun target. If some of them are not full health, would the stun target change? So that is a be cautious with this. Perhaps Maneater would not work the same as Roschard the Tower. So I'm going to call this the block damage ally protect build, right, where you need Roschard the Tower and Rearguard Sergeant. So far, those are the two champions she has on all of her builds. All right, we also use a Doom Priest, which could be a Bad Alcazar to cleanse, also to heal, but we also have a continuous heal from our Rearguard Sergeant, so we're going to check that in a second. And the 8-3 from Roschard the Tower needs to be fully booked. We also have Rearguard with enough damage to be able to sustain the damage of the stun, or to share the damage from that. Planning on the stun target for affinities, you just want to be careful on the grid positioning as well, so it's not just about putting the champions in there. It will change depending on the affinity, so you just want to be careful with that. Certain champs cannot be stunned, for example Rearguard Sergeant, if you want to get have everything line up, right? Maximizing damage, you can use counterattack champion for this. It is ideal. You do not want to use too many negative champs, right? You guys kind of know this, but here's the fun part, is that if your team is not filling up the debuff bar, try adding a toxic set, which is what you saw in the beginning. There's no dedicated poisoner, and so she did exactly that. She placed a toxic set on one of those champions. And we even have right here a Clan Boss turn order breakdown, which is fantastic, but we'll cover the run in a second, and then you guys will better understand this. All right, so here we go. We're on Ultra Nightmare. We are on the Magic Affinity. This is not void, it's not perfect. Don't worry, I got screenshots coming to prove to you that everything works here. We're doing with we're starting with a Roschard A3, right? We want to go block damage right now. It will fall in order eventually, even after we press auto, even if it doesn't seem like that in the beginning. We do an A1 on the Doom Priest, could have been Bad Alcazar, that would have worked as well. Same thing here. A1 on the Rosin, we have an A2 on Rearguard Sergeant. We're going to do an A1 from the Martyr, then we go on to an A1 from Roschard. We're going to get the second AoE, boom boom, and then right back into another rotation of skills. We got A1 from the Doom Priest, we're getting A1 again from our Rosin Scarhide. We want him to do the decrease defense and weaken before the next two counterattacks, right? And then we go for the ally protection. So here's how this works to protect the stun target, because don't forget, Martyr is going to lose her block damage buff, therefore she's going to be taking a big hit, boom, right there. But now that we have two champions mitigating that damage, we will still last to turn 50, and that's basically what this is all about. I'm going to speed this up a little bit because at this point it is pointless to watch it. We are going to see all the speeds, all the stats of all these champions. And again, though, let me quickly say again, it might not work with Unkillable because they would be low HP, right? So if they are low HP, I would assume the stun target is going to change. In this case, there's only Martyr ever taking any damage, and Rearguard Sergeant by a tiny little bit. We also have a heal from the passive of Doom Priest, and we have a continuous heal from Rearguard Sergeant, making her almost a must. The player has suggested that perhaps Nazana could work in the place of Rearguard Sergeant, but you wouldn't have the continuous heal, and you might have to use Lifesteal then, okay? So for now, I'm going to say Roschard and, like I said before, Rearguard Sergeant. They are pretty much a must. Sorry, man, I'm eating my words today. All right, so we're going to fast forward to the end of this, and as you can see, we're going on turn 50, and then we're going to look at a bunch of screenshots. This one I'm going to say is probably, I think, normal for what she's told me for a build with Doom Priest. And here we have another example, but this is in place of Doom Priest. We have the Battle Khazar, and as you can see, we're dealing obviously a little bit more damage because now we have some poisons on top of all this, right? So about 4 million damage more. So obviously Battle Khazar being a slightly better choice. Here we have the Force Affinity. As you can see, it's pretty much the same thing. Nothing has really changed, and we're doing about 41 million damage on Ultra Nightmare. We have the Nightmare here, where we're doing a 51 million damage. This is what I love. It's the fact that you can literally do auto on Nightmare as well. All right, so Ultra Nightmare and Nightmare with these exact speeds. So that is always nice. Reusing the same set or core champions. Here we have Ultra Nightmare yet again with basically Battle Khazar, slightly different. This is Magic Affinity. On this one, we have the Ultra Nightmare 42.36 yet again with the Battle Khazar. So a couple more examples for you guys. And then here's an example without our counter attack champion. We instead have a Frozen Banshee as a dedicated poisoner. So guys, this can still work if you have this combo right here and you still do not have your counter attack champion. All right, and we might have another build here right here. No, we see this lasting to turn 50, and this is the Spirit Affinity, which is a very similar set of champions, but instead we're using Fane. We have Fane, but we still have our Doom Priest. We're not putting the Battle Khazar in there. So I think what he said about this one is that you want to make sure that the Rearguard Sergeant is not the target. So you got to be careful on the grid positioning of where you would put Doom Priest, and I assume maybe you can play around with that Steadfast Mastery, right? We covered that before, but basically that is it, guys. Sort of like the overview of what everything this team can do. Now let's go over each champion, and we're going to start with obviously the MVP of all this, which is Roschard Rearguard, whatever, the tower dude. And as you can see, we do not have any lifesteal, so let's start with the total stats. We have 248 speed. I believe this is very specific to a 4-to-3 slow tune ratio. Don't quote me on that. Deadwood Jedi is the expert, but I think this is pretty crucial. You need to achieve this speed on this champion, and because you're block damage, you can work with more speed gear, therefore should be relatively doable for an advanced account. Then of course, if you want more damage, you want to pump up crit rate and crit damage, but for like the first thing you want to do with these types of builds is probably just to last a turn 50, so you want to get the speed right. Once you have that, then you can start trying to improve the other stats. Gloves here, we have defense percent, we do have a chest piece defense percent, some speed boots, a ring, defense, crit damage, and defense. I assume this guy does not need any accuracy. All the skills are done. I did also, or she told me rather, that she booked the A2, and I don't think it changes much. I do believe he will prioritize this, but this is the fantastic thing about this champion over, let's say, Maneater, is that this is a 4-turn cooldown, all right? So this is probably only doable with these speeds with this champion. Then for the Masteries, we do have Warmaster and a typical sort of like counter attack build. Let's then do our Rearguard Sergeant, because she's the next key of this puzzle in a toxic set. That is what I meant by if you do not have enough poisons on your team, and you know Rearguard is always going to be in there, you can put her in a toxic set. Don't forget, she's blocking the damage half the time, but she's also healing herself with the continuous heals, all right? So for gloves, we got crit rate, defense percent, ring, we got flat defense, crit damage, and accuracy banner. Total stats on this champ, we got 35,000 HP, 4k defense, 176 speed, 81% crit rate, 140% crit damage, and 253 accuracy. I would assume all the skills are done. Yes, probably a must. Same thing here, we have Warmaster, but we also have lasting gifts to get those continuous heals to last longer, so very, very nice. And then let's do Rosin, which is typically in there as well. Same thing here. We don't have lifesteal. We have crit damage gloves, defense percent chest, defense percent boots. We have a flat defense ring, crit damage amulet, accuracy banner. Total stats, 178 speed, 76% crit rate, 200% crit damage, 4.2k defense. Very nice. All the skills are done on this champion as well. And we have Giant Slayer, obviously, on a champion like this, as well as Master Hexer to hopefully extend the decreased defense and the weaken, all right? But you always want to be sure it is right before both of the AoEs. Then the next one we can do is Bad Alcazar, because he is in there in some of them. Total stats on this champ, we have 186 speed, 99% crit rate, very nice, 243% crit damage, and 300 accuracy, very nice. But our defense is a little bit lower at 2.7k, but we don't care because it's block damage, right? Mine has a lot more because I don't have that, but still it is very, very nice. Almost 3k attack. We got defense, crit damage, accuracy, crit damage gloves, attack percent chest, attack percent boots. Very nice. Okay, and we've got full skills done on this champ. Totally worth it. If you get a Bad Alcazar, just max him out. He's totally worth it. We have Warmaster and same thing here, Master Hexer to extend those poison debuffs. Then let's do, we had Feign. I do believe I saw Feign in there in one of those. So we've got for her, again, kind of like just overall geared to increase your offensive stats, 100% crit rate, 200% crit damage, 4.8k attack, 178 speed, 272 accuracy, and relatively low HP, but we don't care. Block damage, again, right? So we got crit damage, attack percent, crit damage, attack, and accuracy for the banner. All the skills are not done. I don't know if this is a must, perhaps just for the cooldown here. I would assume A3 until you get the cooldown, and then the rest maybe doesn't matter as much. Masteries, we do have Giant Slayer, Master Hexer in there as well. And then we've got one more to do, which is the Doom Priest. So I totally have one. Maybe I should gear mine, right? But now you know what I'm thinking? I might not need a Sepulchre Sentinel. Maybe all I need is a Roschard, and then I'm all set. 187 speed on this one, 3.8k defense, 110% crit rate, 133%. No accuracy, a decent amount of life. We've got crit rate, defense percent, crit damage, defense. And as for the skills, they're not all done. I would assume perhaps only the A2, one book till you get the cooldown. That's it. And then for the Masteries, we have Warmaster into a typical counter-attack defense tree. And then we would have one more to do, which is the Frozen Banshee. That's his Poisoner to show that you don't need the counter-attack champ. For this, we have 174 speed, 3.2k defense, 30k HP, 100% crit rate, 142% crit damage, 300 accuracy. And again, no lifesteal. As for the skills, they are all done. Masteries, we've got Warmaster into Master Hexer, which is very typical for a Poisoner. So guys, there you have it, the roster he is using to do all of his clan boss champions, but really the MVPs are Roschard the Tower and Rearguard Sergeant. So if you guys have at least those two champions, you can set this up and you've got yourself a pretty fancy team. The Great Hall, in case you guys want to compare stats, hopefully that was okay, I showed that. But there you have it. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Can we improve this? Have you guys been running something similar? Is there a name for this? Maybe there is already a name. I'll catch you guys later.